Okay, wonderful, wonderful. All right, let's get back into it. We were talking about. Let me switch my screen 1 second. We're gonna get us all back to normal. Just like you coming back from lunch. All right, there we go. That's correct. But I don't want to look at the quiz anymore. We did very well on the quiz. Let us look back at our slides here. Here we go. Okay. And we left off with comparing the converters and the non-converters. And we did a few sort of look-see at the different sort of there are different sort of reports that we looked at to see how converters might appear differently from other people. We found they viewed a lot of pages. We found that they were higher. People who converted on one thing were more likely to do an e-commerce conversion. These sorts of things. So it's one way of analyzing our results. And we kind of create a segment of converters. Okay, create a segment of converters, and we can see maybe get more of them if we find some sort of demographic characteristic that feature them. Although we struggled a bit on demographics with Google Analytics because it wasn't able to get very many. Very many people, wasn't able to assign many demographics, male, female, or age to people. But maybe we would say, okay, wow, our converters, they bought a lot and they viewed a lot of pages. So maybe we start putting some pieces together and say, hey, maybe we should get more engagement on our site and maybe we will have more conversions, which one might think already, of course, but certainly having the data behind you to do the work on it would certainly be helpful. All right, so now another thing that we can do in order to improve our outcomes, our response variables, probably more likely to be the buying type than anything else, would be to look at the funnel. The funnel. This is the steps people take before they buy. And there are two ways to do funnel analytics in Google Analytics. We can either do a funnel towards a goal or a funnel towards an e-commerce purchase, okay? And so I guess as an analyst, it's probably not that big of a difference to you. You know, you probably have some sort of goal in mind that you want people to accomplish. And if you're e-commerce, you probably know that as well. The trouble is that if you do use Google Analytics, they are separate modules and there's separate ways of doing things. And so I just wanted to make sure that we covered both of them so you understand very well the difference between a goal and e-commerce, just so that it was kind of clear in your head. Because this is a very popular program. A lot of people use it. A lot of companies use it. And so it will be good to know if you have a purchase completed goal, for example, you're not going to get any dollar amounts in it. And if you have an e-commerce transaction, it's not even called a goal, e-commerce transaction, you aren't going to have anything in your conversion section, okay, or in your goal section, sorry. And so just so you can see what I mean by doing funnel analytics, or it's more like the checkout journey. And these are sort of a pre-goal funnel. Okay, these are things that people do before they convert. And I apologize for being in gray. I did try to get it in black, but unfortunately, Google, what they've done on their own demo account that we have access to, they've grayed out a lot of stuff that says, no, don't touch this, which is a bit annoying because really they could have just made you not be able to touch it, but instead they've grayed it out, whatever. And here we see steps 1 to 4. And what these are the things that happen or the places that you go before you convert, okay? So in this case, this is the Google Merchandise Store. We have a cart. We have a billing and shipping page, which says, this is my credit card billing address. This is where I want it shipped to. We have the payment details that we put in, our credit card number, and then we have a final review before we are done, before we're done. And required, only this step is required, that they have to go to cart, because actually, funnily enough, you can skip some of these steps if you're already logged in and they already have your details. And so we won't worry about how that works behind the scenes, but just keep in mind all these things where if you go from cart to billing, shipping to payment to review, you would then, after review, you would then be a converted person, okay? Not religiously, you'd be converted as in you would be a person who had given them money or had filled out a form. It could be as well, but this for a checkout, probably gonna be money, probably gonna be money. And this is the report that we are going to look at in the next exercise, just so you get a good feel for it. I think there's only a couple of questions. Let me just quickly have a look. Okay, we have we have 4 questions. Sorry, we're going to look at the goals and e-commerce, then we'll do the exercises. I used to split them up. I put them all together now. Okay, so here is the purchase completed bit, where you see that certain amount of people came into a cart. 9,908. 2,118 made it to billing and shipping. 1,150 made it to payment, et cetera, et cetera. And you see that then it goes narrower and narrower as you go down. Now, the reason why this is interesting and why you would use this for your conversion analytics is because this gives you an insight into where your funnel is leaky. Okay, so this really is for a purchase, But by looking at the funnel, you can see how many people got to each stage and at what stage did a lot of people leave. So for example, here we see that 9,908 people came into the cart and only 21% went on to the next stage. Then 54% went on to the payment. Only 16% proceeded to review, and so on and so on. And so what you'd be able to do then is you'd be able to, well, first of all, you have data that says, hey, this is a problem. Here is where our problem. It is at the cart stage and it is at the payment stage. Then with that data, you would go in and analyze the biggest problem spots. You go, what is wrong with our cart, for example? Maybe it's not clear once you go to the cart page and where the checkout button is. Honestly, it could be anything. Or this is another point that I've seen, where on the mobile device, the checkout button appeared. On the desktop, it appeared all the way down at the bottom right, and you could hardly see it. You know, these sorts of things happen with redesigns and stuff like that over time. The way the browsers change, things can go wrong. And so if you keep sort of one eye on this, maybe this could be another project that you'd have. So segmenting would be one sort of 3-month project. Maybe fixing your conversion funnel could be another one. And the thing is that there is a lot to be gained, because if we see here from billing and shipping to payments, we have, oops, am I not getting this? Why am I mouse? There we go. Billing and shipping to payment, 54%. Now, in my experience, my humble experience, e-commerce experience, that's pretty normal. It's pretty normal for somebody to get to a stage and go, bah, and disappear. Just like 50% bounce rate is pretty normal. Don't know. Just people are flaky on the internet. I don't know. What can I say? But I wouldn't worry about 50%. What I would worry about is 80% and 86% or 84%. Sorry, and say, you know what? It could be a bit lower. It could be lower. Now, part of the problem with this website is that it has people like me and you who are on it just for the fun, just to learn analytics, and we're just poking around, and maybe we add something to the cart and we had no intention of ever buying it at all. In which case, oh well, so be it. There's nothing you can do about that. However, I do think this is a bit suspicious to see that people filled out billing and shipping meant that they had an intention to pay, right? I mean, you wouldn't fill out billing and shipping just to see how it worked, would you? They got to pay and then they didn't pay. And so I would go, okay, what's the problem here? There's something we're not offering, probably the payment terms. One company I worked with, they had a bit of a problem in, I think it was Philippines, where they didn't offer cash on delivery. And when we did the analysis, we found that 80–90% of the people who would have bought from them said they wanted cash on delivery. It's just how they do things. So I had to find a logistic provider to handle that for them. But it was like, until you looked at the analytics, you might just go, oh, well, I guess our store isn't taking off in the Philippines, whatever. You look at the analytics and a different story emerges. You see people pounding on the door to buy, like absolutely wanting to buy. However, the way that they want to buy, you don't offer. And so, even though it's kind of strange in Singapore and probably Malaysia as well, to do cash on delivery, it's very normal in other countries. And so you have to, sort of figure this stuff out through analytics. And then maybe you go, aha, maybe we should be doing this instead. So that's it. So this is the one way of looking at the funnel, the checkout funnel, to do conversion analytics is to go from the cart all the way down to payment. Sorry, it's completed down here, but I cut it off because you can see it later. You'll see it in the exercise. The other way of doing it is on the side, where you can see it from one side to the other. Now, this is a little bit different in a couple ways. Well, first of all, it's horizontal. Okay, fair enough. But second of all, it is you can do a segment on it. You can segment your conversion point and see whether or not your segments behave differently. Now, here is not exactly the best diagram to do it on, because what you do if you want to segment it, okay, so here we're segmenting by source, which is where the click was from. Was it from Google? Was it from google.com? Was it from direct? Was it from somewhere else? And what you can do is you can click on these and it highlights the traffic through there, which is, it's okay, it's reasonably okay. But where it's really quite good is when you look down below. There's actually a table below, and you'll see that when you open the page. And then it tells you all of these different sources behaved through each of the stages of the checkout funnel. So you can very easily do both channel and conversion analytics in the same screen, okay? And that'll be part of the exercise. So you'll see what I mean. The other interesting thing about this is if you're a real checkout nerd, and you'd be surprised, there are some people out there who are crazy about checkout. What they do is they have a look to see not only sort of going from 1 to 2 to 3, like the funnel we've just seen, which is a very good way. I think this visualization is better for just understanding it, maybe for us just learning it. But when you're a real nerd, you want to see when people jump the queue and what is going on. How are they going? What is going from cart to review? And you want to analyze each of these little threads to see if there's some way that you can make the experience better. I suspect, for example, I don't know, it's possible here that, this person was logged in. And so this was some sort of way of skipping these various steps, because when you log in, it remembers details about you or something. But whatever it is, it captures the nuances of your conversion checkout rather than just that plain old funnel. It sort of, can show you some of the details. Oh, and by the way, the blue means it continues on, or the gray, whatever it is. The red means red waterfall is into nowhere. That's it. They're done. They left. And so if you have sometimes you have bigger blocks here and it's a little bit more obvious, but the size of the waterfall is how many people are leaving, and the size of the gray is how many people are moving on to the next step. Okay. So it's a really good way to just get an idea of your conversion funnel if you do have a purchase goal. I'm trying to think, maybe you could use it for a survey. If you had a multi-step survey, that might be interesting to do on this. Or I'm trying to think if you ever, survey or a very long, like, get to know you form or a potential customer this could be useful as well. Because then you could see, what questions did they drop off on? Did they drop off when they asked, them their name or whatever. So there's some other aspects, there's some other use cases for it, but I would say mainly e-commerce. All right, so e-commerce. E-commerce is a separate module of Google Analytics. That was goals. That can be set to anything. It doesn't have to be purchase completed. E-commerce is just for purchase completed, and it's for transactions. And e-commerce doesn't have different steps that you can sort of set up. It just says you can name them, okay? You can call, what is step 1, what is step 2, what is step 3? Billing and shipping, payment and review, and then the e-commerce thing figures it out because it has to be done in a particular way for it to integrate with Google. So we don't need to worry about that, but it's just showing you that it's slightly different for the checkout. They don't call it cart and billing and shipping. They just billing and shipping, payment, review, and that's it. That's all you get. But then you get more information because Google Analytics is so tightly integrated with these e-commerce providers. It knows things. It knows things about people who do shopping. How many people came to our site? So sessions, how many visits? 11,000. How many people didn't shop at all? 8,667. How many people viewed products? How many people didn't put things in, who viewed products, didn't put things in baskets, right? And so we're starting to get a picture of not just a journey from a checkout point of view, but from a shopper. And all these other reports tells us other things about how product performance pages, products fared, how many people viewed a product page and put something into a cart, how many people viewed a particular product and didn't put it into a cart, all this sort of stuff. Real kind of e-commerce geeky stuff that's really useful if you're an e-commerce site. Maybe less so if you're not, but definitely interesting. And then we can see how many sessions had a checkout, how many sessions had a transaction we had, how many people abandoned. You know, it sort of gives you some more detail about your whole shopping experience as a whole. But additionally, in e-commerce, you also have checkout behavior. So just like before, the funnel, which largely is the same, where once you go to checkout, I guess it means that you've entered your cart and you have billing and shipping, payment review, and sessions with transactions. And it'll be slightly different than goals for a variety of reasons, which are probably not too interesting. But I would say in general, so Google has these both set up, goals and e-commerce. But in general, I would say you probably only focus on one and really just either do one or the other. But I thought it'd be useful for our sake to be able to give both a run, both a try. So for exercise 10, we are going to go into those reports. And if I remember correctly, and I'll just check, yeah, I put the name of the report of where you're supposed to go. And so I think we can do these without having to do so, without me having to have so much comment. All I would say is, let me go back to my GA, as it's called. Let me go back to GA, my old friend GA, and I'm going to get rid of these segments. Watch, this is cool. You can take it and just drop it out there. And I'm even going to take this segment and drop it out there. And then, oops, no, it's not going to let me do that. And then I'm going to go all users, get all users back. Or I could just, actually, you can even just untick everything. You click apply, and then Google goes, okay, you just want all users. And there we go. So if then, let me just make double, triple sure. I'm going to go to audience overview, make sure there's nothing left on remaining. Sometimes you'll see, you may have clicked in the wrong place. You'll see like a little box up here that says like channel organic or something. And you just have to click on all up at the top. It's a really weird thing that they do if you accidentally click on a certain thing. Link for the exercise. Yes, uno momente. Let me just get this out of the way. And for the exercise here. Oops, hold on 1 second. Hey, voila. Yeah, so this looks clean and clear. All users is our segment, so we should be getting all the right information. And then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be down in here, but you can search on the name. Am I looking for the model comparison tool? Nope, that's good. That's good. I'm good. And you can search on it, but look in goals and e-commerce for the for the report if you want to surf around a little bit. All right, so to get everyone active and working on it with bank. 2 minutes is good. These are not. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened. All of a sudden, I got removed from the thing. Okay, back to it. Back to it. There we go. All right. So now I'm going to switch this to 16. There we go. Okay, back at it right now. We're on 16. Everyone should be hearing me okay. And you got 2 minutes. So funnel visualization, that's the report. What percentage of shoppers made it from cart to purchase completed? All right, we seem to be doing pretty good. So no reason to belabor this one. What percentage of shoppers made it from cart to purchase completed? Okay, let's have a look now. Let's have a look at the Google Analytics. And we are going to go to the report, the funnel. Oops, not funnage, funnel visualization. There we go. And I'm going to make sure my date is correct. September 1st to September 30th. Always need to make sure on that. And I looked here. I got 8,126 people in the cart. 1,308 went to billing and shipping. 660 the payment. 170 review. And we see 73 made it down. So 8,126 people in the cart and 73 purchased. That is a 0.9%. So the crowd was correct. Now, I've been asked many times, what is the normal rate? Well, I think you shouldn't be surprised if you have 50% at each stage. So let's make it round. Let's make it 10,000. Okay. 10,000, you'd have 5,000 get to billing and shipping. You'd have 2,500 get to payment. You'd have 1,250 get to review and 600 actually purchase. And so it would be more like, if you had this many stages, like 5%. But what I would say is adding the more stages you add, the more drop off you're going to get. And so maybe it's a good idea to combine a few things. I'm not sure you can make this any tighter than this, but definitely billing and shipping in one screen is a good idea. Maybe you could even have payment all in one screen and make sure there's a review, of course, before purchase completed. Obviously, Amazon solved this problem many years ago with one-click buys, which has certainly caused a few accidental buys on my part. Yeah, so 5 to 10%, not too bad, not too bad. From going into the cart to actually buying something. All right, let's go on to the next one. Next one. Back to the quiz here. And oops, what happened? Live answer. Yes. There we go. Okay. Boy, all screwed up. Got thrown off and everything. That was correct. 0.90% was correct. All right, let's go on to the next one. Next question. What percentage of source equals Google made it from cart to purchase completed? Okay, this is the goal flow reports. It's a little bit of a scavenger hunt. Let's see if you can find it. All right, let's see how we're doing here. How are we doing here? Not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. Probably should have. No, I don't think you need any more time. I think you pretty much got it. All right, let's have a look and see. What did the crowd think? Crowd thought that it was 2%. So not 0.9%, but 2% of people who came from Google made it through to all the way to the end. Well, let's have a look to see how the crowd might have found that out. We are looking at the there we go, goal flow report. So goal flow report. So I have to change reports. So I'm going to go to Google Analytics. I am going to go to goal flow. And okay, here we go. So now what we see here is the goal flow. Now it's interesting. You have a finger here and you can select things and you can highlight traffic through one area. I don't tend to do that. I find it a bit annoying. Or if you move it over here, you got a hand and you can move along like that. And you can also change the dimension. You can change how the view of how, excuse me, you can change who you're viewing that goes through the checkout funnel, sorry. So, excuse me, here we have source. We could change this to campaign. Could change the campaign and see, well, most of the campaign is not set. We have data share, promo, AW, Google brand, not very interesting. Why don't we change it to, how about device category? Nope, doesn't let us. That's interesting. Well, it lets us on very few dimensions. That's interesting. I'm not sure where that is. Coming soon. We could look at, it's a lot of stuff we're not here. Anyway, browser. Oh no, browser is going to be all Safari, right? Oh, there's Chrome. A lot of people from Chrome, but then they didn't go through. Oh, that's interesting, right? So Safari, a lot of purchases. Because in Safari we had 8%. Chrome we had almost zero. 17 purchases out of 72.3 thousand. With Safari, we had 56 purchases out of 632. Interesting. Anyway, all this stuff, you have all this to look forward to on your own site. But what we were going to look at the one that was there already, because I didn't want you to have to bother with all this. We're going to look at source, and the source we see Google. Now we could highlight through here and go through here and look down here, and we see purchase completed, and you could see, I don't know, trying to figure this out, 52 out of 275. Do the calculation yourself. It is possible to do that, or we can clear that, and we just scroll down here, and we see Google is down here. So we see all the different sources here, and we see Google's in the white. So we're going to scroll down the white, and we see 52. So we had 2% out of 2.5K. So that's how many people got to purchase complete who came from Google, right? So that's our channel analysis. But then our conversion analysis, which is in addition, we go, hey, people from Google tended to complete more than anyone else. Look at this. All these other ones tended to do badly. So, in this case, obviously Google traffic to the Google site is doing well. Not hardly surprising. All right. One more. Oh, sorry. The crowd was correct. Crowd was correct on 2%. Well done, crowd. Well done, crowd. All right. Let's get rid of that and let me go into my next question. And that will be shopping behavior. What percentage of sessions with product views had no cart addition? Those buggers did the shopping. They even added a product. Sorry, they even viewed the products, but they didn't do anything with it. What percentage of people do that? All right, let's see how we're doing. We've done very well so far. Yeah, doing great, doing good, doing good. All right, so get that one in. A few seconds left there. Get your answers in. So how many percentage of sessions with product views had no cart additions? What do you think? Was it as low as 8.5%? Everyone there was doing it, or as high as 94.56%? Let's see. What did the crowd think? Crowd thinks it was high. Very cynical. Oops, sorry. I gave you the right answer already. Anyway, crowd was right. Let's give the crowd credit already. Yeah, I mean, it's most of your people are not going to buy anything. Most of your people. So let's have a quick look at where that comes from. Shopping behavior is in the. Well, we'll go up here and just search shopping behavior. Et voila. And we see, we're making sure our date is correct. Yep. Sessions with product views, 10,762. New cart additions, 10,171. Oops, sorry, no. And so then gosh, let's cut it out. I can't click on anywhere without it wanting me to create a segment. I don't want to create a segment of people who haven't added to carts. And we see that, so yeah, it is almost everyone who views products don't add anything to carts. And this is what is nice about a system like this that monitors things. Because if you had to do this yourself, you would never know. You'd never be able to monitor it. So you need to have good software behind the scenes to check out this stuff and make sure that it's watching everyone, keeping an eye on everyone. All right, well done. And one last one in our conversion analytics, and that will be the checkout behavior. What percentage of shoppers dropped off at the payment stage? Okay, how are we doing here? We're doing well. We're doing well. Okay, I think people got it. I think you've got it. None of this was too hard. I know it's not too hard. Hopefully, it's not too hard. But it is something that gets you to see each of the different reports and sort of take in a little bit of data. So now you understand a bit better what is on offer. So what does percentage shoppers did drop off at that payment stage? How many people are doing things that we don't want them to do? And we see most people think 87%, 87% drop off. Whew, wow. So as soon as you ask for money, as soon as you ask them to get their wallet out, that's it. All right, let's go to Google Analytics. Let's go into our, where is it now? There we go, checkout behavior. And there we see billing and shipping drop off 66%, payment drop off 87.91%, review drop off. Wow. So we have almost everyone dropping off. Now it doesn't seem to add up here because you have this many people review, this many people drop off. I suspect excuse me, that so I don't know. They just go from again I have a feeling Zoom is about to go. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm back on. Sorry, the Zoom was telling me that something was wrong. So let me just see. There we go. Excellent. Got it all back. All right. All right. So there we go. So we got it correct there. Good. Hopefully I didn't miss too much. Hopefully I wasn't speaking for a long time without people knowing, but I'm pretty sure I would have a monitor that tells me when things are not working. And it seemed to be working okay for a while. All right, let's just see. Let's have a look how we're doing here on things. We have Fish Stargazer securing his or her spot at number 1. We have Angel Stargazer at number 2 and Flower Tamer just behind. It's very, very close there. Very, very close there. But don't worry, there's going to be a killer quiz somewhere in here to separate the wheat from the chaff. All right, let us go into our final section. So it's 2:38. Yeah, we should be fine. We should be good. And this is operational analytics. And look, some of this is real kind of downloady stuff. So you may have to relax a little bit. But don't worry, I put a big exercise here. There we go. Unmute. There we go. Sorry, Zoom just keeps saying I'm disconnected. I'm very sorry about this. I've never had this happen before, where Zoom is telling me that something's going wrong, and so I'm not sure what I can do about it. But I seem to be back. Yep, I'm back now. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna have to bear with it, I guess, really, and hope that Zoom doesn't drop me again. Very interesting, because it seems to everything else seems to work, and then all of a sudden, Zoom just tells me that I'm disconnected. Right. All right. So we're going to talk about operational analytics. Now, there's a lot of stuff in here that I've just put in here because I think it's important to know. And then it just says so that there's that it's stuff that's important to know, but it doesn't really fit necessarily in these projects. So I think the main things you need for analytics is you need to think about your audiences and your segments. You need to think hard about how you're going to do channel attribution, and then as an extra, as sort of like frosting on the cake, you can examine your conversion points and say, okay, is there some way we can improve them by using the funnel? Can we identify people who convert and maybe there's some sort of characteristic they have in common? So you do some sort of conversion analysis as well. But then there's all sorts of other things that you can do as an analyst. And I wasn't really sure how to sort of lay this in. So I thought operational analytics is probably a good spot to be. Okay. So the first thing that you do sort of operationally is to come up with what is called a measurement framework or a measurement plan. And this would sort of outline what it is that you're trying to measure and what you're trying to achieve with your digital business. Now, the example that I've got here, this is from Google. So Google put together a measurement plan as an example about their Google merchandise store. But I would say you don't need to have a store to have a good measurement plan. It could be perfectly fine measurement plan would be, we get people to our website, we get them to sign up to our newsletter. That's fine. We get people to our website, we get them to download a white paper, watch a video. That's fine. maybe a bit harder to say we get people to our website and try and get them to stay a long time and see ads. Yeah, you probably could measure that too. Yeah, why not? But regardless of what it is, what do you have to think about very carefully about what it is you want people to do, and then you set up your measurements in order to track that and improve it. And so just to make it a bit easier, I've sort of highlighted a few things here. Sorry, to make it a bit easier, I have a few notes about what I think your measurement plan could include. And this is Google's stated measurement plan. It's actually on their exam. If you ever want to take the Google Analytics in individual qualification, they actually test on it. And it's all about just taking these 5 steps and making sure that these things are written down, they say. But it makes sure that your analytics and all your efforts are directed towards sort of in the same direction, and you're using Google Analytics and your other analytics properly. And so, yes, the thing that they use it for is the Google Merchandise Store, which we've been to and admired the strange Google products there. But the first things first is to document an objective. What is your digital business for? And in some ways, we probably could have opened with this. I was thinking actually of moving this to the opening, but I thought, well, you know what? There's a lot of stuff in here we'll get to in a minute about segments and stuff like that. I'm like, it's kind of hard to introduce that. And so I thought, we'll move it to the end so we understand all of the things that we have to do as analysts. A target variable that we want to influence. We have to have tasks that we want to do. We have to do, my video is stopping and Zoom then gets mad. Yep. All right, hold on one second. Something about Zoom. Let me just see if there's a problem with my computer. I don't think that's it. Okay. God, this is bizarre. All of a sudden, out of the blue. Yeah, so about happens is I see my video freeze up, and then all of a sudden Zoom says, sorry, you're not connected. Anyway, so Google has a measurement framework. Okay. And that measurement framework tells us to, first of all, have a plan. And it's surprising to see. I've done this before at the beginning of the course where I've talked to people, especially live, and I get to hear more about what their various businesses do, and it's always very interesting. Loads of different businesses out there, and then you say, "What's your website for?" And so many businesses don't know. We just have one, and I think it's because what's happened to a lot of companies is their website is a leftover from their sort of traditional media days, where they would have a brochure or they'd have some sort of marketing bump that they would have and they would distribute. And the website was just a translation of that into digital, and it hasn't really moved on from there. They haven't really thought about having a conversion point, or they haven't really thought much about the different types of people who use their site and all the different services they may want on it. And so a lot of actually, a lot of really big brands, consumer packaged goods brands, yeah, all sorts of consumer brands really don't have a lot on their website. And I know it's something, for example, even Coca-Cola has struggled with for years to try and figure out what the purpose of having a website is. And, if I was going to answer that for everyone and just be the fountain of truth for everyone, it'd be like, look, whatever it is, give people something to do when they come to your site, not just click around and find out interesting information. Give them something to do that's a little bit hard, like put in an email address, or if it must be watching a video or something beyond what a normal visitor would do. And then it's a good indicator that people are kind of interested in your brand and kind of checking it out. Or even have some basic e-commerce, sell some fan materials, like people who are brand fans, or some, I don't know, so anything, so something that gets people to do something more than just come to the site and just click a few pages and then click away. And that would be your objective. Now for Google, it's very easy. They are an e-commerce site. Their business objective is to sell things. That's as simple as that, okay? Sell merchandise that promotes the Google brand, okay? So at the top of measurement, the main objective of the store, which is to sell branded merchandise that promotes Google. Okay. Then from there, you want to say how you're going to do it. Now, this may not be your domain. This may not be the thing that you do. You may not be the person who's in charge of strategy. And so what you need to do is find whoever is in charge and go, our website, I think it has a purpose. We're getting people to come and buy things or fill out a form, whatever. How exactly are we doing this? How are we doing this? Or if you are the sole provider, ask yourself, how do I think that we are going to do this? Or how are we going to do it more than we currently do it now? For Google, they could say, well, you know what? We're Google. Everyone will come to us anyway. It's the only place you can buy official Google branded merchandise. And so we can just run the site and they will come to us. And it's probably half true. However, in reality, most companies can't do that, and Google has decided not to do that as well. Instead, what they've done is they said, we've created an advertising campaign that directs customers to the store website to purchase Google branded merchandise. So really, it is just, the strategy just says, the objective is we want people to come to our site and buy things. The strategy is, well, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to advertise. And it can be really as simple as that. And a lot of people, I suspect, haven't even thought about it as far as that, to be honest. Yeah, and they create advertising, and the tactics will be like the ads themselves, which, interesting enough, I've never seen, and can't seem to be able to get from anywhere. I've had a look for them and can't find their Google merchandise ads anywhere. So they run it sporadically. They don't seem to run it all the time for some reason, which is weird because it's like their own website, right? They could run their own ads on their own search engine. Anyway, I don't know. Google politics work. You'd think they would just run. Then we are choosing our response metrics. What are the things that matter to the business, and what are the main ones? So now Google says choose KPIs with an S, and it has 3 there. It wants to increase the conversion rate, it wants to increase total transactions, and it wants to increase revenue. And normally I get hives when I think about having more than one KPI. I think it could be a bit too hard to do. But I think the point that Google's making here, and I think it's a good point, is that you have to be careful about what you choose to be your target. Because there's an unwritten rule somewhere that as soon as you set a target, people will try and work around it. And if you just said, okay, we are going to try and increase conversion rate, what people would do would be to, stop all traffic except for the traffic that was most likely to convert. Or if you said, we only want to increase total transactions, you might be convincing your merchandiser to reduce prices on everything to get more transactions. Or if you wanted total merchandise revenue, well, then you might be in danger of driving your ad budget through the roof, because that's the only thing that people look at. And so by having a few, or 2 or maybe 3 at most, like this, KPIs that you're really going to focus on, it could help keep everyone in line. Because, for instance, like if you wanted to increase revenue and say you just spent tons of money in advertising, well, your conversion rate would probably go down, because at some point your traffic plateaus. You only have so much good traffic out there that will convert at a high rate. After that, it kind of goes down, and so your conversion rate would go. Or if you were just trying to increase total transactions and you put everything on sale, well, that would then affect your revenue, okay? And so your 2 KPIs can be fighting with each other if you try to do anything too crazy. So in some ways, although I shirk at having 3 different things to do, because the trouble is, if you put 3 goals up, sometimes they don't really know which one they should be going for. But I think in this case, I'm gonna make a bit of an exception. Go, that's probably all right, because it keeps the 2 keep the others, or 1 keeps the other 2 in line. So anyway, you pick your response variables, and maybe it isn't about making money. Maybe you're a brand site and you have, a lot of great branded material, and you have e-commerce, but is it really that important? Nah. What you really want people to do is come, understand your brand message, watch some funny video, and maybe shop at the brand store, and good enough. Because really, when they decide to make your purchase is at the supermarket shelf, or it's when they're using an online travel agency, or there's some other channel that they do most of their shopping in. But you would like them to understand the brand and the brand values, and the brand is funny, or the brand is high class, or the brand is everyday, or the brand is whatever it is. You have some sort of goal of what you want to do, and so you wouldn't necessarily measure e-commerce in those things. That wouldn't be your KPI. You'd measure some sort of engagement metric maybe. And then, and then you have, something that would be useful to the business besides maybe the e-commerce. So it is possible. Okay, so then you have your goal, sell things, your strategy, advertise, your KPIs, sell, high conversion rate, right? This is probably a good one in general. And you really can express this stuff in a few sentences. This shouldn't be, this is the measurement plan sounds really big, but it's not. It's not. It's really quite simple. So then finally, after that, then you do your segment analysis, okay? And that's when Google says, to increase your KPIs, marketers often compare the performance of small sections of their audience or segments. These are, this is Google sort of talking here. And you take a segment, you break it down, you look at an underperforming and overperforming segment, and then you try to boost one up to increase your overall effectiveness, overall KPI numbers. Okay, so we've been through that many times. Hopefully that's very clear now. So you do that with dimensions in the reports, and you do that, you can do audience segmentation outside of Google Analytics, and you can do audience segmentation in social media, search, email, all these great things. Okay, and you try to make things better for one of your segments. And then finally, once you understand the performance of your segments, tell you various things about them, you will then set targets, and you try and say, okay, I think I mentioned this before, where our mobile was converting at 0.35%, our desktop was converting at 0.07%. And we didn't say, oh, our target for desktop is going to be 0.35%. That's ridiculous, right? You're not going to go from 0.07 to 0.35%. Just sidebar here, it's really, really hard to move the conversion rate without doing drastic changes. And that's fine, you can do drastic changes, but you're not going to get 5 times the result on whatever you do. You're going to have to do a lot of work in order to get it up to 0.10 or to 0.15. And maybe your target would just be something reasonable like 0.12 and set that for 3 months. And then, you do your work, and then you can, but in advance then, right? If you raise the conversion rate, what your returns should be. So you should be able to figure this out. We'll talk about that in a little bit about ROI. Yeah, and so then, sorry, that's it. So then you have your digital management framework. You have your 5 steps in there. You have your goal, you have your strategy, KPIs, your segments, and your targets, and then you've got a plan. You have things that you're monitoring, your response variables, and then you have your segments. You have work that you can do. You might have some explanatory variables set aside that you might go, okay, we're going to do on that, and that should be your sort of day-to-day analytics, watching on that stuff. Okay. All right. The next part, a little bit more downloading, and this is going to take us, maybe not take us to the break. Hopefully we get into the next section because it's more hands-on. But this is something that definitely needs to be discussed with every analytics and every marketer. This is about structuring tests. So I think this probably happened around the time Amazon started getting big in the early 2000s. And somebody said, oh, the way that Amazon gets so big is that they test everything. Okay. It said that, that they, they don't put a new button or they don't put a new product up or anything like that until they run a few tests. And then all of a sudden, all of the different web programs and analytics programs had testing software built in. And that's great. Tests are great. Tests are great. But there are some rules. It's not as simple as just using some testing software and hoping for the best. There are a little bit of rules. And an analyst should know at least the basics, at least, some parts about what testing is all about to make sure that you are following the rules and you will get good results is really what it comes down to. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So you may improve your KPIs through doing changes, right? So you're going to change the website to improve your KPIs. And some people think, I think I mentioned this earlier, maybe even with this diagram, that you improve your KPIs by, say, changing your web layout. Okay. And here's your original web layout here. There we go. Right, that should be there. That had a picture and some text and some centered headlines. And then you have this new design that some agency did for you. And you think, wow, this looks a lot better. Okay, this looks a lot better. Looks really cool. But before we launch, maybe people don't want better. Maybe they like us being a little bit ramshackle, where text is centered. We only have one picture. It's not really that big a deal. No one really cares. And they really just, the more interesting thing is our site and the stuff that we offer, our products and services, our cat food. They come for our cat food. They don't really come for the website. Maybe there's no difference, okay? And so what you have to do is set up a testing rig. It doesn't just happen automatically where you stick up a new site and go, oh, well, that might be nice. You actually have to have a special testing rig, which will then rotate traffic between the old site and the new site randomly, so that then you have a bunch of people who are able to see both one or the other. Sorry, not both. They're able to see one or the other, and then you measure the performance of some particular metric. Okay. So what you do here is example, the landing page would perform better if instead of just showing the app, which is A, we listed all the features, B, and that is your hypothesis. And if this is starting to sound like high school physics or chemistry or whatever, it is. It's the scientific method. This is how we do testing. Same way that people in the lab do it. We come up with a hypothesis of something that we think might be true. Then we run an experiment. Then we use the data to determine whether or not we were correct. Okay. So our hypothesis, our landing page would perform better. Well, we have to be a bit clearer about that. And so we need a metric to judge on that, and generally use conversion rate. Maybe click-through rate could be, maybe, if you have something that you want people to click through, maybe you could judge that, but typically it'd be conversion, which one drives more business. Then you run a timed test. It has to be timed. It cannot just be, well, we'll run it until we see what happens, okay? We have to say, we're gonna run it for a week. We're gonna run it for 2 weeks. I would say if you run it for a month, you're probably risking ruining the test, because you're going to have some people who come back more than once, and they may see various variations, and you have no idea the results. Do a week, probably good. Maybe two weeks is good, because then you have a sort of a long enough period to gather enough data, because you need a lot of data. You'll need a lot of data in order for it to work. But you run a time test, and then at the end of it, you judge. And here we have example A had 22% conversion, which is insane. I guess the conversion must have been, I don't know, clicking on an icon. And here we had 52% conversion. I would be more likely to be 2.2 and 5.2. I'll have to put periods in there, make more sense. And then we say, okay, this one won the contest. Although you do actually have to use a tool in order to really judge it, because it's this math is quite difficult behind it. So what are my thoughts on this, or what are the general, not just mine, there's general thoughts on this. One is to use large variations when you do a test, okay? So if you think you're gonna be clever and improve your conversion rate by changing your site, it has to be big. Here is one that I found on the internet, somebody saying that here is an A/B test. I looked at this and went, I went, is there any difference at all? Consumers don't really care all that much about you or your company or your product or anything. They care about getting something done. And so it is highly unlikely that they are going to notice the difference between a load of text and a book here, or a small book here and some icons there. Like, honestly, there's no point. There's no point in running this test. Any difference that you get will be noise. And both sites perform equally well. This is the sort of thing that's normally done as a bit of a vanity project, where somebody goes, well, I have this little change I want to make. Well, let's run it in test. And they throw it in here, and it's like, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. It'll never show any material difference. It's the same thing is true with changing the button color. That was another popular one for a while. Red buttons or green buttons or off-colored buttons, whatever. Look, you change the color of the button, it's not big enough. It's not big enough. No one is going to notice. No one is going to really care. You're not going to be able to measure the difference. It's going to be so minute. It may perform better over 10,000 conversions, whatever, but I mean, not enough to spend your time on it. So if it's too much like the original, highly unlikely to make a difference. First thing an analyst needs to know. Yeah, this is sufficiently large, okay? So here we have two different sites, vaguely the same on the sort of display, but here we have one where you click a button before you fill out a form, and two, you fill out the form and then click the button. And I would say that would appeal, that would have a different behavioral reaction to people. So do people like to have the form hidden and then click a button to reveal it? Or do people just like to see the form in front of them and go, oh, that's not too bad, and fill it out and then click the button? That is probably worth testing. That is probably worth testing. But this other one, no, way too similar. Yeah, okay, so here's where the math kind of comes in. And this is something you don't have to remember this. This is not something you need to memorize at all. But what you need to know is that it exists, okay? That if you are going to run A/B tests, if you're going to test two different variations of something, you need to measure the sample size, okay? Now, you don't have to know the math. You don't even have to remember that there's this calculator. You just have to go, oh, hold on, we're going to do an A/B test. We need to make sure there's a lot on either side so that we know that there is a measurable difference. And so here, this is an example here. So say we have a baseline conversion rate of 5%. Okay, our normal conversion rate is 5%. Out of every 100 visitors, we get 5 people who sign up. And we have a new variation. And what we're saying is that new variation is going to be at least 6% in order for us to say that it's better. Okay. That's our baseline. If it's at 5.5% better, we're like, no, it's not better. But if it's 6%, yeah, it's better. It's better. Okay. So we're willing to say, that 6% is better. So what we say then is that we need to have 7,663 people per variation come in and convert at 5% at least, or 6%, in order for us to know that there's a difference. So the A and the B each have to have 7,663 visitors, which is a lot, especially for small sites. But I wouldn't say that noticing a difference of 1% is reasonable, right? I think that's fine, right? But when you look at the math, you need to have a huge variation a huge amount of samples in order to recognize that variation. So it's something to keep in mind. Again, you don't have to remember the math, you don't have to remember the numbers, you just have to remember that this is a thing, okay? When you do A/B testing, you have to know how many are on each side before you start the test. You have to have a calculator to say, yes, we need this amount for it to be statistically valid. Otherwise, you might as well just wing it. If you're not going to do this sort of measurement, you might as well just say, that one looks better, use that. And that's fine. That's fine. But it's not analytics. It's opinion, and that's fine. But if you want to do analytics, you want to be data-driven. If you want to look like you know what you're doing, definitely A/B test with a sample size calculator. Okay, another one is to wait until the test has finished. This one's really hard because most people who are armchair analysts don't understand this at all, okay? But the deal is that, what you're doing is you're measuring a random process, right? It's a process, something, everyone who comes in, it's just random who comes in, right? And it's random whether they convert or not. The thing about random processes is that they can trend, okay? So when you flip a coin, you can flip 5 heads in a row. It's not really all that unusual, okay? Maybe it happens 1 out of 100 times. And so when you run an A/B test, you may have a runaway success at first. So here we have the blue as a runaway success. Look at this. By whatever it is, we start the thing at 12 noon on the 17th of January. By the 18th of January, a whole day later, look, this one's converting at 4. This one's in the dumps, down at 1.5. Oh, obviously, the blue one's better. This is a real one. It's a real one. But over time, it reverts to the mean. It reverts to the mean. And we see that the two get closer and closer and closer and sort of stay the same. And by January 22nd, January 23rd, gray is, well, here we go. January 22nd, gray has basically tied or even overtaken blue. And so it's another thing. You don't have to know all the details of why this is the case. You just have to know we set a time. We say it's going to be a week. We let it run the whole week. We don't. It's called peaking. It's called peaking. So if you peak, you may see an answer and you may stop the test, in which case it is invalid. Okay, what else do we have to hear? We have, oh, yeah, I think this is the last point on this. Oh, no, not only. Avoid multivariate tests. Another thing that people who are armchair analysts do is they think, well, I'm going to compare A and B. That's great. I got one that's a winner here. it would be even better if we had 4 different variations. And so we compare 4 different ones, and it looks, we've got the winner. And look, that must be the winner because it's much more hardcore if it's had to beat 3 other ones. Well, it turns out the math of this is very, very tricky. And you're very, very likely, the more different variations you put in, the more likely you get a false positive, okay? When you have an A/B test, you can usually determine whether or not it's valid, okay? Whether or not one truly beat the other. And then it can hold up pretty well. If you have 4, you really kind of have no idea. There's people like Google, I think we're testing 56 or something different variations at one time, 56 colors of blue or something like that. And, and you end up getting the likelihood of a false positive being like 80, 90% as soon as you add a few variations in. So the test becomes invalid almost by what it is. Now, obviously, if you're doing, maybe Google can get away with it with millions of different page views. However, definitely in this case, the multivariate testing of 4, I can imagine they probably, I don't know, wouldn't have a lot of traffic. And maybe if they're, a massive site, they could get away with this, but unlikely. And so stick to 2. One really good idea of how things could be completely different, and then test that and just keep it at that. And so at the end of all that hubbub, you need to use a platform. If you're going to do this sort of testing, if you want to compare 2 different changes to your website, here is Google's platform. It's Google Marketing Platform. It's now available for everyone. It has Google Optimize built into it, and start for free. I don't know if you pay for it now. It used to be called Google Experiments, and it was built in Google Analytics, and they ripped it out, opened its own program. Maybe they're selling it now. I'm not sure. Whatever it is, won't be expensive, I'm sure. But they are integrating it into their marketing products, and so it's a proper testing rig. Okay, it's not like ad hoc tests, and it will give you all this information. I guess it won't tell you about the variations. That's something you'll have to do. But it'll make sure that everything that you do is proper, and so you're following all the rules. You're not peaking. You're not doing too many variations. You have enough samples on either side. These sorts of things. You need a tool, and it'll help you follow the ways. So testing is great. Very good way to learn things, but it's got to be done properly. All right. Now into the more kind of fun bit. And we'll probably hopefully get a little bit into this. Okay, one second. Let me just see where we are. So digital analytics reporting. Let me just hold on. I just have to really quickly look because I moved this around last night. I want to make sure that we don't get into. Yeah. Okay. So we've got exercises here. We may or may not be able to do too much exercise. Let me I tell you what we'll do. What we'll do is we will learn how to build the reports now. Then we'll take our break. Then when we come back, we will do the exercises, because otherwise the exercises will probably take a bit too long to, they'll go way into the break. And then we have to break it up. So don't worry, we'll cover it and cover it all and make sure we have a break. We may even finish a little bit early. Then we'll see. All right. So when we talk about digital analytics reporting, hopefully we've gotten this clear now. That all these reports have a very similar structure. And we've seen these many times over. And so this is nothing new to us. And I just do want to reiterate it because it's a little bit different when you are building stuff on your own. So this is what we're getting into, is we're actually going to try and build our own reports. And when you actually do it on your own, suddenly you have to, think a little bit more carefully about what it is you're trying to do. And the reason why I mentioned this, and I showed this one, is page views, is because here we have to make sure that our dimension, which I'll get to in a minute, and our metrics, that they line up, that they match, okay? They have to make sense with each other. So reports have a similar structure. They have the dimension on the left, right? We always have the breakdown, the categorical breakdown. And the dimension, usually words, categories, not numbers. And that's how we're going to take our scorecard metrics, okay, and divide them up. So metrics are on the top. And these are the main sort of scorecard metrics that we have from our site. And we have the metrics which are describing the dimension. Okay. And so here we see the page home. And page home has page metrics. Okay. Page metrics include page views, how many times that page was viewed, how many times it was viewed uniquely. So how many times, because if somebody just hits refresh 100 times on a page, it will actually count all those refreshes. However, we're not really interested in that. We're more interested in uniques. How long somebody spent on page, how many times that page was the first page, how many of that time the page the only page, and what percentage of that time was the page the last page. These are just sort of behavioral things. Page value a bit complicated. We won't go get into that. But anyway, all of these things describe that page home. Now, when we change that report to say channels, okay, we are looking at something, we're going to look at completely different metrics, right? Because a channel is, say, organic search or direct, and page views doesn't really make sense for a channel, because a channel doesn't really have page views. Channel will have users. How many people came in on the channel? Or a channel will have sessions. How many visits? Or a channel will have average page views, which means page views per session, or it will have average session duration, because when they came on that channel, how long did they stay? And it will have bounce rate as well, slightly different. A bounce rate meaning how many times did somebody come in on this channel and view only one page? And then, of course, conversion rate. How many times did somebody come in on this channel and convert? Okay, so we think of things in a different way when we build our own reports. We have to make sure that the metrics match the dimension. And I mention all this because we are going to take a little foray into custom reports. Okay, so up at the top of Google Analytics, up on the left, you'll see 3 squares and a plus. And that is the customization department. And there in the customization department, we have a few things here. So first of all, you can change your reports, and you can just save your report. So you can make a little alteration in your report and save it there. You can do dashboards, but dashboards I'm pretty sure are being retired very soon, because they put a little note there saying, please use our other product called Google Data Studio. But here, I still think this is useful, even though it's kind of old, is this custom reports. And so what I'll do is I'll just go through the slides first, and then I will do a walkthrough, just so everyone understands what you have to do. Then after the break, we will come back and do exercises where we build our own reports. Okay. So first of all, we click on custom reports. Doop. Here. Oops, sorry. And then we click on a new custom report. Now, your custom reports that you're going to build in Google Analytics, pretty simple stuff, right? It's not easy. It's not easy. It's not hard. It's not hard. All you're going to have is a dimension and a metric, right? But if you use the Explorer or Map Overlay, they're very neat and everything, but it's too hard to build. So really, I always stick with Flat Table. Fine, just gives you, and then when you click on Flat Table, it says, okay, sir, what are your dimensions? What are your metrics? And you add those, and then you build a table. Okay. So here we have one where I put the dimension as the default channel grouping, which means we're going to be doing some channel analytics. We're going to be looking at channels, going to look closely. And for metrics, I've boiled it all down and I've decided, you know what, I really only care about the bounce rate. Everything else, nah, not interested. I want to know the bounce rate. Okay. So what will this report tell us? It'll tell us very simply, what's the channel and what is the bounce rate? Okay, bounce rate by channel. And the reason that you do this is because a lot of times you may just want to have a very simple report where you just see all the things that you need to know, and everything else is just unimportant. And so you just build one custom report, and that's all you use. I've seen that case where people maybe they have 2 or 3 custom reports that they have, and that's it. They don't go into the whole of Google Analytics and surf around and see everything. They just keep it simple. Okay, so here we have bounce rate by channel with our default channel grouping and our bounce rate. And then once we have this report, we might go, well, you know what? Actually, it's not really telling us something. We're missing a key bit of information. And that is that we don't know which channel is the most popular, right? If we all we see is the default channel grouping and the bounce rate, we don't know which one is the most popular and which is the one we should worry about. So what do? We need another metric. And so we have here the date here, whatever. We can go up to the top and we click on edit. And we can then just add another metric. It's very simple. We can just keep building the table. And Google, one thing nice about it, okay, so you can't add the wrong metric into the table. It won't work. It may let you add it, and then it just will show you some garbage data. I can't remember, or you may not even let you add it. I can't remember. But anyway, we're going to add the metrics that mean something. And what's great about it is it's not like, I don't know, it's not like building a spreadsheet where you then have to like cut and paste and whatever. You just select the dimensions and the metrics you want, and Google handles all the data behind the scenes for you. Actually, that's a point to make, is that you never actually see your data. You never see your data. Google only makes it available through the reports that it gives you and the custom reports. And then you can export them, but you can only export the tables. You can't export the raw data. Interesting. They'll keep it for themselves. Okay, so then we have our new table here where we have the default channel. We have the bounce rate, just as we did before, but now we have sessions, which tells us how many visits we got per channel. So now we have a much more data-rich channel. And we can sort of figure out what it is we want to know. So I don't know what we want to know here in this case. Maybe we're wondering, organic search. It seems to be a high bounce rate. And was it popular? Oh, yeah, it is pretty popular. Display had a high bounce rate. Is it popular? Nah, we don't need to worry about display. We hardly have any traffic from there. These sorts of things can come into mind. And you can build a report to have a look at it. But you may actually say, well, this is interesting. Organic search seems to have a pretty high bounce rate. I wonder if it is a particular device that is causing that problem. And it could be a particular location. It could be a particular age group. It could be a lot of things. But we're going to say device. And what I'll do is say, okay, if we want to see organic search broken down by device, now we could add a segment. We could go up there and go boop and add the segment and then have a view of the table. I think we can add a segment, but we won't. We won't. Let me see. Hold on, let me just have a look here. Yeah, you can. You can add a segment to your custom report. No problem. But we're not going to do that because instead what we will do is we will just add another dimension. We were going to enter the second dimension. And that dimension will be device category. That's the dimension for mobile device. So we go in there, add dimension, boop. And what do we see? We now see organic search, yes. We see the bounce rate in sessions, yes. And we see the channel, the device that is associated with the channel to see what the bounce rate is for that device on that channel. And in our analysis, we were thinking, well, one of the devices may be causing a high bounce rate. We look at this, we go 56%. 50. No, dead end. Doesn't matter whether they come in on mobile or desktop, we're still getting about a 55% bounce rate. So no good. But you may learn something else. I'm trying to find if there's anything else in here that looks interesting. Does anything have any huge differentials between? No, all the behavior seems to be the same across devices per channel. Maybe we would try something else. I don't know. Maybe we do new versus return users. It might be a way to see about bounce rate. Could be good. But anyway, we'd have this report, and it's part of our analysis, and we want to do something with it. We can share the report by email very easily. We can send it to somebody else. We can have it as a PDF. We can send it as Excel. Maybe send it as CSV. I can't remember. And then if you want, you can send it multiple frequencies. So you can tell Google to set it up and send it every 6 weeks or something like that. Or sorry, every week for 6 weeks. And so if somebody needs a regular update, you can do it. And then when you're done with the report and you want to save it forever, you just click save up with the report and it gives you a name of the report. And then that's it. Boop. And then we'll do the exercise in a minute, but I want to walk through this, or we'll do the exercises after the break. But I wanted to walk through doing this just so that you see it happening in real time. Okay. So let me go back to Google Analytics. There we go. And I'm going to go into customization. And I have my custom reports here. And a few I made earlier. We don't have to worry about that. So yes, when you go into custom reports, it's like, come unlock the power of your data with Data Studio is their new product. That's what they're pushing. That's what they want us to use, Google Data Studio. Very interesting. I think it's really good for doing dashboards and stuff like that. The graphics are very good. It's a little bit tricky to get your data in, but not too bad. But it's not nearly as easy to use as Google Analytics. Google Analytics is so purpose-built for it. It's just so easy. Anyway, so Google Data Studio, I want to keep an eye on. Good thing to keep an eye on. Maybe try it out sometime. All right, so new custom reports. Here we go. And just like I said, we have, oops, I seem to be a bit zoomed out. There we go. Okay, so when it says new custom report, it says you want to explore, no, too complicated. We just want a flat table. And this flat table is going to have a dimension and metric. So just build the one that I did before. So I go dimension is default channel grouping. The metric is bounce rate. And then that's it. You have done a table. With a dimension and a metric, you have a table. You click on save, and away you go. Then remember, we added a few other things. Maybe let me do a little. So down bounce rate is for our date 68%. Okay, maybe what I'll do is let me do sessions. Let me do sessions. So I'm looking at, make sure I'm looking at popular things. But maybe let me find something else to divide it up by rather than device. What's commonly used? Commonly used is default channel grouping and maybe, I don't know, landing page. Like user data. Maybe country. Okay, we can put country there. And we might say, well, maybe certain countries have a higher bounce rate than others, and that's what's influencing our channel bounce rate a lot. And so let's see. Okay, little secret here that'll help you out is that default channel grouping, it's going other. We don't want that. What we want to do is we wanted to look at organic search. We wanted to see if one particular country was influencing the bounce rate more than another. Now, right now, it's obviously done organic search, and it seems to have alphabetized our countries, which isn't really how we want to see it. We want to see it as number of sessions. And we see, aha, look at this. Here's the culprit. United States, 37% bounce rate for organic search. So our users from America are finding our content useful. However, when we go down to the rest of the world, India, United Kingdom, China, we're seeing higher bounce rates than our nice low American bounce rate. And so we can attribute some of the bounce rates that we're having to the fact that they're come from different countries. Okay. And then I guess here we go. We can share it. We can share it. We can share it as CSV if somebody needs to import it. Share it as Excel, PDF. Frequency: daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and later on it actually, there we go, active for how long do you want it to be active for. Share it, and then you can export it just like any other table. Save it into your thing, or go back and edit it and add some more stuff. All right, hopefully that's given you a bit of an introduction, because we're going to come back and we're going to come back running. We'll run through the exercises when we come back. We will cover a little bit more material, and then we have a little bit of a survey to do. But anyway, let's get through the exercises. Oh, I do want to talk about graphics as well for a bit, visualizations as too. I have that as well. So let's take a break now. I will put on the timer, and we will be back in 30 minutes, and we'll go through our last exercise. A little bit more material. Oh, yes, and a cutthroat quiz to determine who really is the analytics expert of the day. All right. Okay, where's my timer? There we go. All right, so see you back in about 30. And let me just put the timer on the screen so you guys see. Oh, again, this is screwing up here. All right, timer on the screen. There we go. Excellent. All right, see you back in a few.